Okay, this is a kind of a review of the open source SNES FRAM cart from SonicCD123. It's an open source cart. You can get the files for free online. And so I had seen a lot of this, other people talking about it, so I thought I would just check it out. So I had 5 boards made, and I thought I would just go ahead and positively contribute to people that have questions. So where you see the arrows, those are pin 1. So they're not all oriented like most boards where the chips are all oriented one way or the other. I also thought that earlier I thought, well, maybe it's, this little symbol here is, orientation, but nope, it's not. Anyways, so that's those, and then on the back, the 2 latches, those are pin 1s there. So that might help somebody. There's a lot of questions on which way the chips were oriented and so forth. And so now on to the other issue, the banking pins. Okay, so these resistors, R1, 2, 3, and 4, these right here. Now, if the dip switch is in the on position, then you don't need a resistor. It just sends the signal up and through. Now, these resistors are called pull-ups, which means this bottom row here are all 5 volts, and then these connect to the dip switch. So these are in 16-bit mode. Okay, you have to kind of change your numbering when you go from 8-bit to 6-bit. But this is the highest address, A20, and next highest is A19. And so so in the up position, you're either going to connect to the address bus, or in the down position, it'll be pulled up, pulled high. And so the only way this can work is if you do not bridge the respective high-low jumper pads, A19 and A20. If you bridge these, then it would be a direct conflict. So you have to leave those open, and then so those are open, and then so we had one kind of real problem here. I mean, the creator of this offers a banking profile, and so for banking to work, you need to be able to pull high and low. Right now, like A20 and A19, they're just being pulled high. It's either high or it's whatever the bus drives. And so so on like this little chart here, if you're going to bank switch 1 megabyte chunks, then the dip switches being well, I mean, you need to be able to pull low or high. So A20 and A19, if they're both low, then you pick the lowest chunk of memory. And then A20 low and A19 high, then you're in the next chunk of memory. And then A20 high and A19 low, then you're in this third chunk of memory. And then both of them high, you're in this fourth chunk of memory. And so right now, the pull-ups, or the resistors, only give you the option of high. And so if that's the case, then the only 2 games you would get would be maybe this corner, maybe that corner. You definitely wouldn't get this. This one would be gone. Maybe this is probably, maybe this would be the only one you'd get. Anyways, there's a way to fix this. And so this chunk of copper is a ground plane. And so I just scraped off a little marking or a little bit of the solder mask, and I just jumpered to the ground. So with this being pulled low, and then the resistors here being pulled ups, now when the dip switch is in the up position, then it's low, and when it's in the off position, then it's being pulled high. And so now I've taken that same bank switching scheme, and I got two wires here running over to the FRAM. The FRAM, this is a 256K, which means it's 4 times 64. So not banking this either high or low, but taking the center pin, I run those to the same signals on the dip switch that also controls the ROM banking. And now I have 4 SRAM or RAM profiles. This ROM, I had to build the ROM, and then I had to byte swap the whole thing. I use WinHex. WinHex has an edit tool that just says byte swap, and then it's done. It's pretty simple and easy. I don't feel I need to show that. But so on top of my extremely messy desk here, so I've got Zelda. I've not created a bank yet, so I'll just put in a bunch of random. Okay, so there's Zelda. Okay, so Zelda was in bank profile. 1 on, 2 off. Okay, so if I just go put both of them in the off position, and I get Return from Dinosaur Land. You can see I already made a save down here. Okay. And now we're gonna put them both high. Oops. Okay, which means they're both being pulled low. Okay, now we got Super Mario World. Okay. Now, this 1 is not actually supposed to be here. This is from earlier. Let's see here. I'm gonna erase that one. So that one actually accidentally got copied into a section when I was swapping wires around. So if we'll go back to Dinosaur Land here and show that that one's still there. Yep, see. So, and then finally the last one, and you can't do the dip switches with the power on. All right, and then the last one is 1 on, 2 off. I think that's best there. No, it's Zelda. I have to go the other way. But we'll make sure the save is still here. Yep. So it should go without saying that all the games have to be small, and all the games have to be the same map, which these are all low map, and so F0. So you got 4 games with 4 independent saves. So if someone wanted to add a few more jumpers to this cart, then you probably wouldn't need any of the wiring. You know, this extra wiring could probably do without that. Now, as far as 18 and 17, A17, you know, to fully bank switch all 4 of those, all the games would have to be like 256K in size or something ridiculously small. And so, I mean, there's really no point in even doing that one. Same with 18. You'd have to have you know, all 512K games, but you know, Super Mario is 512K, and there are others, plenty of others actually. And so you could bank switch in 8 games with the 3 A20, A19, A18 if you wanted to. That might get a little chaotic, but anyways, so there is an example of the bank switching, and again, the bank switching was only going to pull up pull high, those 2 lines, which would only give you half of the games, you know, whether it be 2 or 4 or 8, you know, you were only going to get half of them because none of the address lines were going to be pulled low. And so, in fact, I think, yeah, you'd only get 1 game out of the bunch. And so, out of this 4 that I showed. Anyhow, so that's the multi, and I think I made that one clear. So the, you know, the bottom of the dip switch is what goes to the ROM. It's the top of the dip switch goes down to these SL selectors. And then again, if you're going to do a multi, you cannot do the upper those jumpers down there. So whichever ones you're banking, you can't bridge those because you have a bus conflict. All right, so anyways, I've got this is just a regular straight game, no funny business, no monkey business. Those are just jumper. I mean, this is how it either needs to be or has to be. You have to jumper these 4 lines to get all the addresses to the ROM. And again, this is a 64K. I'm not sure if that'll, yeah, 16W08. That is the 64K version of the FRAM. And so there's Chrono Trigger. I have an original copy, so I don't mind showing this. So it does work. The banking works, and with a couple of jumper wires, you can get the bankings to even save 4 slices. That's probably all you could get. Okay, and then the last thing is a couple of critiques here. All these holes at the bottom. I mean, you really don't need most of them. I understand why they're there for testing or whatever, but I mean, you're going to have all your address lines up here. So really, you know, your control lines, your data lines, you know, you can get rid of all the address ones because they're all up here. Just silk screen, you know, name them, and that way someone could use them, probe them easily. Also, power pins. Okay. Let's see if I can get this to focus. So the power pins right here. That little tiny trace is all that this power pin is delivering. Okay, so this needs to be a thick trace all the way up here. Okay, the other side's the same way. And then same thing for see, this is the 5-volt line. Same thing, just a little tiny trace. Okay, power traces should be a lot thicker. That, and then let's see, where's my cart? Here it is. All right, so power trace, and then now let's see, putting it in the cart. Sorry for my crappy videoing here. All right, so we got it here. And this is the one I had to, I don't know if you can see that or not. I had to kind of grind down that top corner and then the other corner to get it to fit. So let me grab another one. So here's one that I did not grind down yet. And you can see that it's just a little too big. Again, no big deal grinding it down, but you know, when you make these things, you know, the fab shop should take care of all this, you know. This is just a Gerber error, you know, in measurements. So anyways, you know, so you have to grind those down, and then incredibly enough, you know, you got to cut this little center post off of your shells, you know, because and the center post is what keeps it kind of balanced and keeps it from rattling inside the case. And so, you know, because the ROM is in the way of the center post, you're gonna have to actually cut the one on this side. That's the post you're gonna have to cut because it jams right into the ROM. So I don't do schematics in KiCad, so this is not a project I'm in love with. So this is not something I'm going to edit. But if someone decides to take it on, then you know, these are some suggestions. So suggestion number one would be to add some ground, maybe some ground jumpers on the top of this dip switch for proper banking. There's really no point in even having this dip switch here without some sort of way to pull those lines high or low. They're pulled high, but not pulled low. So, you know, that's pretty simple. You could add a couple more jumpers over here to tie those banking pins to the FRAM, you know, I suppose. Make the power traces a little thicker down here at the bottom, and get rid of a bunch of these holes. And then the CIC really needs, see all those lines? Those lines here. All these traces. Let's see here. All these traces, right, all through here. All those. They're, you know, going high and low. They're firing. You know, and here you have the CIC lines right next to them. Okay. And if this card ever like resets all of a sudden just for no reason, it's because of this. You know, take all these lines, move them over, maybe stick this resistor in the middle of them, have those lines come down way over here, get them away, as far away as you can from all the noise. Again, here's a cart where I just used the dip switch for the the shunts instead of it was just dip switch was like $1, and so I just stuck it in. So so anyway, so if I was gonna make some recommendations, those would be it. I would definitely put some silk markings, like a white dot that indicates which way is pin 1. And then, okay, C2. C2 does nothing. It literally has no effect of where it's placed. I mean, there's no point in even populating it, even though I did on some of mine. But now C1 goes to the Super CIC. I get it. It's fairly close to the power pin. That's what it's supposed to do. C2 does nothing. It's no help whatsoever. And so, you know, every one of these chips should have a decouple capacitor, which is what C1 is, what C2 may be meant to be. I don't know. But there's no decoupling caps on any of these, or these. So the proper way to do it would be to have those caps as close to the power pin as possible, but it's not there. So it's probably not critical. I'd say it's definitely not critical. It'll certainly run without it. But if you want to do it the right way, then you know, that's the way to do it. So at the tail end of this video, I do design circuit boards, and we make the Mordoff games retro circuits. We make the do-it-yourself circuit board. This is what this is, and everything is through Hall and pretty well explained. It gives you a lot of options for a lot of different scenarios. It does come with a programmed CIC. So if you buy the board, you're going to get a CIC already programmed. You don't have to mess around with any of that mess. It does have the FRAM option also. This is the board built with the FRAM. And let's see. So you can see it's the Ramtron 1608. That's a 64K. And so this is Earthbound Uncut. And you can see there's no battery on the board. And I haven't actually turned this one on in quite a long time. And there's my save. So I suppose you know, I mean, if you really want to do it yourself, then you know, then the one we make, retro circuits, you know, would be the way to go, because you don't have to program the CIC. Everything else is off the shelf parts. You know, these two chips on this board, this chip and this chip, they handle the FRAM, I guess you could say management, where you know, this thing can only work on a falling edge of write and enable, and SNES you know, natively does a rising edge, and so so that's what these two chips were. Now these are on backwards, so don't look at this as orientation. I put these all on backwards because I was still figuring that out. So anyway, so ignore the orientation. But with the 64K FRAM, you don't have to do any rewiring, or you know, those two jumpers are irrelevant because the pins that they connect to are there's nothing there internally, so you know, so you don't have to do those. And so but you know, with this, okay, you have to, you know, yeah, the files are available for free. Then you send them to a PCB manufacturer, and you know, and they'll make them, and usually it costs you something. And then you have to buy all the parts, and you have to know how to do some surface mount work. You're gonna have to program the CIC. Okay, so for a beginner, this is not a board I would recommend if you're just beginning and just learning, because most people can't surface mount solder, and most people don't have the proper tools to program the CIC. So with the do-it-yourself board, it comes with the CIC already programmed. It either may be loose or it may be already mounted. Either way. But other than that, you can also buy a parts kit, that gets you everything you need to do it yourself, or you can go to Mauser or DigiKey and buy your own parts, whatever. But none of these are surface mount. You've got a bunch of jumpers, similar to the other one, and then got some other options. But anyhow, that is kind of my review of this one. So once again, the banking option would only select high, so A20 high, A19 high. So this would be the only game you would get. No matter what positions those dip switches are in, this is the one you would get. And so well,